Welcome to Thursday Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Jessie Ott, the host of this podcast, which is all about beverage innovation. I talk with innovation pioneers from agriculture to glass. Thank you for listening, and be sure to subscribe to be notified of all new episodes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Thursday Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Jessie Ott, and I'm speaking with John Walker and Bill Shufelt with Athletic Brewing today. I'm so excited to have you both on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend with me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Yeah. Excited to be here.
Of course. You know, I was telling Bill and John earlier, right before we started recording, that their company has been brought up 3 or 4 times throughout the year on my podcast, because obviously it's Beverage Innovation, but they're also the leader of what they're doing in the non-alcoholic beer space. So I'm super pumped to hear their story today. So where are you both calling from? You want to start, Bill?
Cool. I'm calling from Connecticut. We're both in Connecticut on the East Coast. We do have brewing operations in Connecticut and San Diego.
Okay, so you do have some production in San Diego.
Yeah, about half of our brewing comes out of California.
I wondered about that. Okay, so you're both calling from Connecticut. Bill, where are you from originally?
We're both from Connecticut. Yeah, so I was working in Connecticut at the time, so it was staying local to me. John was very far from Connecticut.
Yeah, so I grew up in Connecticut. Born and raised in a restaurant in Madison, and then I was in New Mexico when Bill and I connected and moved back here to start Athletic with Bill in 2017.
Oh, okay. So, Bill, talk about a little bit about your career and how you got into the why of getting into non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah. Definitely never, ever would have thought I'd be qualified to be in the food world, and especially not the beverage world. I was never like the most sophisticated taster, but I had an unbelievable love of great food and great beverage, and I really just didn't want to be an entrepreneur either. I never had any desire to be an entrepreneur. It wasn't until this need emerged so authentically in my lifestyle that I was just like, it was an idea I couldn't put down. I wasn't someone who had 100 ideas and chose one. I've had like one idea ever and just been so obsessed with it. And that really, yeah. So it,
that's
it
fantastic.
It really emerged very authentically out of my lifestyle. I was just kind of go, modern adult. I worked in finance. I was eating healthier. I was working out more. I was about to get married, and my life was just maturing, and I wanted a drink and adult beverage that kept up with that life. Like, I loved everything about adult beverages except for the alcohol, and like that it would hit you for days after. It would affect your recovery from workouts. It would affect your sleep. It affects your productivity at work. But I wanted a awesome beverage that I could consume socially with colleagues. It would be a great meal pairing. And, you know, I had become so accustomed to having amazing craft beer that when I did stop drinking, there was this huge void out there in the world, in my world. And then I started to look around and realize, wow, 50% of adults in like these bars and restaurants and everywhere really aren't drinking much, if anything, ever. And so I kind of realized that, wow, this is a just really big underserved community out there. And it started to snowball from there.
Were you aware of any other non-alcoholic offerings at the time besides O'Doul's?
They'd really been, so we're the whole beer and adult beverage world, and like there were 10,000 wineries, there's 10,000 craft brewers, there's all this variety in the alcoholic side. On the non-alcoholic beer side, it was the least innovative category in the entire grocery store for like the last 30 years, where like the whole grocery store had changed. It was the same products from like the early 1990s, the 80s, the 70s on the shelf in the non-alcoholic beer category. And it got no attention, not only in product, but like how they were marketed too. And it drove me nuts. And I really started trying to order non-alcoholic beer from all around the world and didn't find anything too impressive, and was like, wow, someone should make this. And I just kept saying that, like, someone should do this. And finally, my wife told me, she was like, you should do it. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you my only real experience of non-alcoholic beer, and then we'll switch over to you, John. In 2019, I went to Bahrain for a wine festival on the Navy base, and so my wife and some friends, we ended up. I was like, okay, we're gonna spend 3 days in these places. Are you with me or not? Because if you're not, don't come, because it's gonna be brutal. And so after that, we went to Greece, and went to Santorini, and then we went to Sicily for 3 days, and then we ended up in Rome, which was absolutely amazing. And because I'm gluten-free, I mean, I can drink a little beer, it's fine. I just can't drink a lot of it. And so I found the highest rated pizza place, and it was right by the Vatican, which is what we did that day. And it was so amazing. And they did have the main brands over there, the Peronis and whatever, that did have some non-alcoholic beer, but I don't think that they were really exporting it or anything like that. It was just sort of serving. It may have been in a few countries in Europe, but it's nothing that was ever available in the United States. And this is gluten-free, not non-alcoholic. So, I mean, the expansion of like what offerings might be there, I agree. It just wasn't there. I think there was two brands of gluten-free that were technically available at that time. So, non-alcoholic was in that same space. And I think it's become a little bit more prevalent in Europe now. But certainly you guys put that on the map in this country for sure.
Thank you.
So anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying I get it. I totally get it. So John, kind of tell us about your experience and how you got into our world, and then how you connected with Bill.
Yeah. So I grew up in food and beverage, literally a family-owned restaurant, and I was making salads when I was 8, and doing all sorts of things that probably are not advisable anymore with child labor laws. But
right. Well, heck, we didn't have seatbelts at 3, so
that's true. But family business, and it was great. And long story short, I found myself in New Mexico right around 2002, and was there for a long time in the food and beverage space, and wound up finding my way to a brewery called Second Street Brewery, which is still there. They're one of the original craft brewers. They opened in 1996, and I kind of learned how to brew there with the brewmaster Rod and some friends, and just quickly fell in love with brewing. It was manual, it was creative, it was scientific. The community was awesome and really inviting, and overall just very positive. So all of that kind of led me to declare that I had a career all of a sudden.
It's great.
Prior to, I had convinced myself that never would have happened. So it was kind of nice. And relieving, and also to find yourself in a place where you're feeling good about what you're doing.
Right. Finding your place is hard.
Yes. And so, long story short, I was kind of scanning the map and the world of beer for something that was fun and exciting and challenging, but also near my family, which was up in the Northeast. And it just so happened I found this ad on, I think, ProBrewer, that said the most innovative sector in craft is hiring in Connecticut. I was like, oh, like all those things are wonderful.
Wow.
So
that's
I
cool.
responded, and Bill and I hopped on the phone, and it was then that he disclosed that the most innovative part was non-alcoholic part. And I was like, oh, that's fascinating. But it was met with like a don't hang up, hear me out. And so I bought into it. I think partially because I grew up with non-alcoholic year round. I grew up in food and beverage, and I see all of the beverages, all the occasions, and all the people. And at the end of the day, you want to make inviting environment for anybody and everybody. And so having that non-alcoholic beer was always important in my life. My dad would drink it after a run, talk about how refreshing it was and just filled with carbohydrates. I was like, oh, that's cool. But Bill was like, nobody's innovated in this sector in so long, and I just want a good beer. And I was like, that's totally reasonable. And I, after being in craft for about 7 years at that point, I was thinking about it and thinking, it's kind of wild that the whole craft movement failed to recognize this pocket. So it was equally challenging and exciting, and I was happy to join Bill after we met up.
Well, you guys hit the mark right at the right time too, because the slow and no and this movement of people wanting to be in the younger generation wanting options, and obviously we all do at our age. Like Bill was talking about, you get really affected by alcohol, not just for one day, but possibly two. Just not even having that much. So I 100%, when you're outside and you're sweating, whether you're doing yard work, gardening, whatever it is, the first thing you want is definitely a beer, really cold beer. And so, yeah, I that's awesome. So then what happened, John? Did you just kind of pack up and then move back to Connecticut?
Yeah. So, we took about 4 months to kind of close up our family operation in New Mexico, and gave ample time to the team over there, who I'm still obviously very good friends with. And so it took about 4 months to transition over to Connecticut and move the family out. And once I landed in, I think, August or September of 2017, we met in Stratford at the place where we signed our first lease. It was a 10,000 square foot warehouse with nothing but a pile of tires and a dingy office, and that was going to be the R&D hub for the next period of time until we moved that operation into my parents' garage.
It must be a big garage.
It was a one-car garage. It was pretty small, but we knew that we had a lot of work to do, because we couldn't just brew non-alcoholic beer. And we wanted to make something that was really special and really had purpose and celebrated all the flavors and characteristics in craft beer. And, so we kind of tore all the walls down, and bought some home brewing equipment and started there. So we literally spent the next 6 to 8 months doing home brew batch after home brew batch and splitting each batch into 3 to trial different treatments of each brew until we found our process. And so that's, that was a lot of time spent together trying to navigate how to do that and kind of thinking about the business.
Yeah, well, when you're breaking into a completely new field, as you are, not having brewing good quality beers with no alcohol must have been a huge undertaking and challenge to try to figure out what the science was behind that. Not.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely was. But it was fun. It was, I think Bill was really excited about. Oh yeah,
there it is. The picture.
That's the warehouse.
Oh, we got some coolers and some kegs. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, it was literally homebrew equipment. I welded that little keggle myself and brought it from New Mexico, and
that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, so we really did. We kind of tore it down to its roots and looked at each ingredient and thought about how we could make the same experience with the same ingredients, but minus the alcohol.
So is that a process you want to talk about, or is that kind of proprietary?
It's definitely a proprietary process.
Okay.
And took a long time to come up with. And honestly, we've got a few processes now, and we're really excited about all of them equally. And, it just goes to show that there's so much you can do in brewing, and there's like thousands of rabbit holes you can go down in brewing, in the ingredients, in the brewing process. And you can tackle so many different things and create so many unique beverages with these amazing ingredients.
So what kind of resources were you able to find or use to kind of help guide you through this process? Was there anything that was done, years and years and hundreds of years ago, or is it just all kind of trial and error and what you learned along the way?
I think Bill can start because he started looking at this well before I did.
We definitely read a bunch of brewing textbooks. I needed to get like a foundational base because I had never brewed beer, period. So I wanted to see if it was possible. And I really both needed to learn a lot myself. So I had to get a head start on learning myself, and then had to share that with like any ideas with someone like John, who would actually know if they may work. And then the learning curve just went exponential when I teamed up with John at that point, like bringing it to the real world. But we knew we had a really major disruption on our hands because adult beverages up until that point had really been alcoholic adult beverages for 5,000 years. The concept of great non-alcoholic beverages had really just been tinkered with around the fringes. I think Seedlip had a really nice offering and was a pioneer in the spirit side a few years before we got going. But the beer world was really totally uncharted territory. And so kind of talking about a really big disruption, changing habits that have been in place for thousands of years. So part of the education was on the product side, but like we knew we had a huge real world education hurdle also. So we had to bring it to the trade, bring it to distributors, talk to vendors about that. But then we had to get it out to the media and like thought leaders and things like that. And so it's been really exciting to see now that products are more available like Athletic, to see like thought leaders comment on the trend too, and really give it the second wind in society. So it's been really exciting to see all that unfold.
So given the existing non-alcoholic liquor, beer, wine, spirits, whatever it was, were you able to connect was it Brennan with Seedlip and Bill Gamelli? I see that you're also on the Adult Non-Alcoholic Beverage Association. I believe he's on that as well.
Yeah, definitely all good people. There's actually 90 brands on by now, and then there's about 140 U.S. non-alcoholic beer brands now, which is crazy because there was like 7 or 8 probably when we started, and maybe only a few that weren't imported.
So Max Green with Leader Brewing, I don't know if you've met him or heard of him, but he was my second or third interview on the podcast this year, and he attributes everything to you guys because he said he brewed on and off for like 17 years, but he was just tired of the alcohol. And so, once you guys did it, he was like, okay, yeah, now I know it's possible to have non-alcoholic, really good brew. And so he started he started brewing again. It became a new thing for him to kind of discover. And he's located down here in Palm Bay, just east of Orlando. But yeah, he definitely attributes, and I'm sure that's what happened to many of these smaller breweries that are like, yeah, we don't want the alcohol. Finally, someone's made it and made it good, and it is a possibility. So I'm sure you're the inspiration for a lot of these companies to kind of pop up and try it.
Yeah, definitely aware of Waldo. I haven't been able to try their beer yet, but definitely want to. And yeah, Athletic beers are served in over 600 breweries nationally too. So, like, then breweries don't have to go through all the
awesome.
food safety and regulatory things to make non-alcoholic beer. So, yeah, it can be an easy option for local breweries too to be able to just like serve other non-alcoholic beers as well.
That's fantastic. So how do you distribute that? Is it through cans or kegs or by other means?
Yep. Yeah, mostly through cans. We have launched kegs pretty recently though.
Okay. I would think that would be like the most cost effective for both parties.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there, we think. We're excited to see what happens. We started at pretty small scale, kind of local to our breweries, to feel out the process because it's such a unique process where, it requires a lot of consideration in terms of food safety and sanitation all the way to the end user, which is, the tap and the bar and the bartender. And so there's some educational hurdles that we need to make sure are met so that we can do it thoughtfully and, just make sure that the product is as good as it was the day it left the building.
Yeah, and I interviewed the beer guys. There are a couple of guys that had a radio show and was syndicated all over the country, and they're based in Atlanta. But they focus on some legislation that was happening in Georgia, but also what else is going on in the country. And of course, they like your beers, and they know of both of you. But it's the challenge and change that's happened over the last, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years of a local brewery might be the state of Georgia or maybe in Atlanta to 20 of them in all different pockets. So, I guess in the sense for you guys, that's a great opportunity because probably none of them are doing, or very, maybe 1% of them are doing non-alcoholic beers. So I would think that would be a great opportunity for you guys to get distribution. And, it's not just Atlanta, it's everywhere. I mean, there's, I don't know, 4 or 5 breweries in Dallas area. Every community has 1 or 2 probably or more. So I would think that'd be a really big opportunity, as a non-alcoholic beer option to get in all these other breweries so that, again, it's a cost-effective measure for them. They don't have to do all the work behind the scenes and the science and whatnot. 8 months of trial.
For sure. Yeah, we're definitely big fans of Tim and the Beer Guys. We've known them for years. Like, they were one of the first podcasts to take a chance and have us on, which was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Yay. Yeah, they're great. Yeah. Aren't they awesome? Yeah, they're good dudes.
For sure. Still stay in touch with them. Emailed like a weekend now. But yeah, in terms of local breweries too, it's not only like not having to come up with the food safety and regulatory stuff to do non-alcoholic beer, because it isn't often worth the time for a small brewery to invest in all that stuff. But it also helps keep people at their tasting rooms and breweries longer because in any group of 5 people, there's bound to be one person not drinking, or they have a driver, or people might only be in the mood for 1 alcoholic drink, but they might have 2 or 3 drinks and stay much longer. So if everyone's having a good time, that same lesson kind of applies to bars and restaurants also. We hear it over and over again from bartenders that people stay longer because they'll have Athletic at the bars, where people, they see all the time, like people who may have left having 2nd and 3rd drink because it's not alcoholic, or, so it's one thing that surprised us the most. I didn't think people would rotate alcohol and non-alcohol very often in the same session. We do that all the time. I mean, I think we did a survey and 30% of our customers said they'd rotate alcohol and non-alcohol in the same sessions, which was kind of shocking to me.
Yeah, that's a lot, 30%. And that's been brought up too on the podcast. And how that's interesting that they stay longer. But it makes sense too, because if you're going to go have a craft brew, a lot of times, we grew up with 3-point beer, at least I did in Iowa. And so, a lot of these are 5, 10, 10%, and you may or may not realize it. So if you can have a non-alcoholic beer in between and spend the extra 45 minutes to an hour, it makes total sense, for people that want to hang out a little longer, order another, order of cheese curds, which is what I would do. So you're ordering food, you're staying longer, spending more money. I mean, it makes sense, but wow, 30%, that's really high. That's interesting.
For sure. Yeah, another one that caught me off guard was people who drink both non-alcoholic beer and alcoholic beer are 30% more likely to go out in any given week than people who just drink alcoholic beer. And when they go out, they spend an average of 15% more per check, which are like 2 crazy stats to me. Those both blow my mind.
Yeah, that just totally blows my cheese curd analogy.
The cheese curds sound great.
Oh, they're so yummy. But, I'm from Iowa, and Wisconsin is really good cheese curds. So it's it's a thing. I had another podcast with a gentleman from Wisconsin. We did 2 drinks. We mixed 2 cocktails, and we tried cheese curds with both of them. It was fun. Anyway, that's just like my signature, I guess. I have a love affair with the cheese curds.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. I have them in the freezer at all times, so I can just pop them in whenever. That's how bad the addiction is. So, wow. So I wonder how that happens. Like what is there any more intel on how they're spending 15% more and going out more often?
I think their groups probably hang around at bars and restaurants longer because there's not someone who's like dying to hit the road who doesn't have a drink, would be my
Right.
guess.
Can't have
like
another
those
Coke.
incremental.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Well, I guess too, if you're changing, and I just Claire Warner, I just interviewed her this week or this past week or so. She's very much behind the low and no movement period in terms of health for the bartenders, whatnot, and she's done a lot in that direction to help the quality of life, which I think is a huge accomplishment. And her point is, well, restaurants are literally losing money if they don't have a non-alcoholic beverage on their menu, because they're either going to get water or maybe soda water or a soda, versus paying extra money for, a brew. So, I mean, I guess it all kind of makes sense, right? Because if you're going to be buying a $10 or $12 non-alcoholic drink, whatever it is, versus a soda, you're gaining like $10 per check or per drink. So I guess that makes sense.
And we see it fluctuate weekdays and weekends too. And so bars and restaurants that don't have a great non-alcoholic menu for weekdays are probably losing out to an even bigger share of contingents of beers. Like these could potentially be some of their best-selling weekday drinks under all.
Yeah, and I love the idea of how you were working out and you want to have a beer after. I mean, there's a whole market that really isn't there to tie in working out and having a cold brew somewhere. Like that could be a whole marketing aspect of it that hey, you're at the gym, come Monday nights, it's half price, non-alcoholic beers for hey, increase those carbs, get cooled down and whatnot. So that actually makes a lot of sense. That's pretty that could be kind of neat, in certain areas that would be open to it, I guess. So I see that you have a quote that says, "The world belongs to the energetic" by Ralph Waldo Emerson. So that totally ties into what you guys were saying about, wanting to feel better, wanting to have an option to not drink alcohol, but still have that great taste.
Yeah. John, is that your quote? I don't want to take credit for anything, but I definitely subscribe to it, but I can't take credit for it.
Well, it's on your LinkedIn.
Oh, okay. Interesting. That's
underneath
so funny.
your summary. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, you probably did it so long ago you forgot.
I must have been in an energetic mood, but I definitely, yeah, I'm definitely a huge believer in just like forward progress, and like I'm such an action-oriented person that I always try to keep moving forward.
Yeah, no, and it definitely takes energy.
For sure.
And the non-alcoholic option certainly helps with the energy versus drinking alcohol, which slows you down and makes you relaxed and chill and whatnot.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we hear it often referred to, and we think of it this way ourselves in a way where, that moment in a day when you consume a non-alcoholic beverage is kind of like a line in the sand where you can no longer do a very large range of activities after that moment. And that could be work emails, it could be driving your family around, it could be working out, it could be like a whole range of activities that kind of fall off the table of options after you drink alcohol in a day. And so,
Yep.
I mean, it really does keep the horizons very high. And, when people work out and do things too, like all the gains happen in recovery. And, alcohol does affect sleep, and as data has shown. So, yeah, I think athletic beers definitely tend towards a very energetic lifestyle in general.
So, Are there any key mentors or anybody that you look to in the industry to kind of help with this, whether it be the science, the marketing, the general, maybe the name or maybe some of the names of your brews, because those are really fun too. You guys have really gotten creative and kind of not only have this non-alcoholic beer option, but you have all these fun names that really I think are also part of your branding and your mission to kind of have fun with it.
Yeah, I don't know if necessarily John or I would point to like any single person as a mentor that we or like someone we like use as a role model. I mean, everyone's got their great things, and like people are all flawed in different ways too. So, but like we definitely try to learn from everyone in different ways. We're both huge readers. We both love podcasts, and like especially like hearing about other people's stories and entrepreneurs. So I've kind of taken a lot of inspiration from so many different ways. But we are very thankful for people who've like paved the road in this industry. I think people like Ken Grossman and like that who've done so much work to make it easier to be in this industry. We're very thankful for. But John, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. Kind of those who paved the way and those who kind of broke down barriers and just showed you that you could kind of will it if you want it, which is awesome because, a lot of people have dreams, but they don't necessarily know that they can go tackle it. And when you see pictures of, say, Ken Grossman, with a welding mask on, fabricating these random things to make delicious beer in the 80s, you're like, oh, I could probably do that in my garage too. So, it's inspirational, but, so there are all sorts of folks like that. Parents, of course, with the forever role models. But to your point about the naming, I think that brings up kind of a lot of what our company is about, where we've got all these cool names and a lot of cool artwork and messaging, and all of that's with our team, and it's all about collaboration. And I think, some folks that I admire the most right now are like the people that we're working with, who have done an incredible job at building this with us. We're definitely not doing this ourselves alone. It takes a ton of effort by a ton of people, and we're just super fortunate to have all those people in our lives right now.
Yeah, and you talked about other people that when you kind of started out, you kind of put this out there and got some feedback from different people. And one of the themes that has been very consistent throughout this podcast is that the industry is very kind and very open to help whenever you need some direction or some conversations. I know that's certainly been that way in the bourbon industry, where people have gone and worked with Heaven Hill or Beam before they get started in whatever local area they are. And that's been really enlightening, I guess, for me. And it kind of makes me proud to be in an industry that is so kind and you feel comfortable reaching out to anybody because they'll give you time. I mean, it's certainly something I've learned about the podcast. I'm no one, and people are saying, "Sure, I'll let you interview me," which is the greatest thing that's ever happened. So, I'm certainly thankful for that, and for you guys too for taking the time to spend an hour or so with me and tell your story, because it's pretty amazing. So you started in 2017, and you mentioned you have another brewery open in San Diego. So when did that kind of roll into the fold, and why the need for it?
We found ourselves, so after we launched in May of 2018, in a facility that we thought would carry us for, the better part of 5 years, we quickly found ourselves out of capacity a number of times, which is a great problem to have, but it's hard when you're trying to grow and you see this demand and desire from people for the product. And you're like, I want to make more, but I physically can't. So we started looking around the country just to see what was available. and this facility in San Diego kind of showed up on our doorstep or in an email. And we were traveling at the time.
Things just came together for you guys. I love it. It's so awesome.
So we were traveling at the time. I think we were at CBC or GABF or something in Colorado, and Bill was like, "Hey, the facility, this facility in San Diego, we could go see it." And it was kind of like beyond our wildest dreams because this place was massive and just a total wild next step for us. But we definitely had confidence in our product and the category in general. So instead of flying back east, we continued west and took a tour of that amazing facility in San Diego, and then sat down and had coffee for a number of hours trying to figure out how to do it on the back of a napkin.
Love napkin math. That's how it all starts.
So yeah, but I think officially that came online in April of 2020.
No, it was like March 17th, 2020. It was like right as the world was closing down, we signed up for this like huge facility.
Oh.
And
yeah, but you guys probably did pretty well.
We made one hire on the West Coast. Oh, sorry. We made one hire on the West Coast. So we had one teammate out there, and like all our other teammates were on the East Coast. And so we were building this West Coast team from afar, and some teammates drove across the country to go west. And yeah, it was a crazy story. But we quadrupled the size of that facility and capacity within the first 18 months. And so that is a beast of a facility out there in San Diego. And then in the meantime, we got to building a bigger brewery on the East Coast too, which John oversaw in 2021 and 2022 also.
Wow, that's a great story to be able to say that you expanded so much during COVID. But I mean, being non-alcoholic, you don't have any restrictions. You can sell it on your website, right? Like it doesn't. I mean, it's your mode of transportation and getting in the hands of people is so much easier and with less restrictions.
For sure. But people in 2018, when we started packing and shipping our own beer on the internet, people told us we were morons for trying to do e-commerce. They were like, no one is ever going to buy beer online. Like, forget it. And we were like, okay, well, if people order, I'm going to pack and ship it. And before we knew it, it was like, it was like 10 packages, 30 packages, 50 packages a day. And then all of a sudden it was like 200 packages a day. And we were kind of like, whoa, we got a problem here. And all of a sudden we were selling a ton of beer in California. And so we were like losing money on every order. And we had to get a new warehouse just to fulfill the e-commerce packages. And so this e-commerce, like really no one was doing beverages on e-commerce in 2018, like not only beer, but like beverages. And there was like a little water online. And so that distribution and like customer interaction innovation was a pretty big one for us also. And yeah, we'd been doing e-commerce for like 2.5 years by the time COVID hit. So we were like ready to service the nation when COVID hit in a way there.
Do you feel that the e-commerce part of your business is kind of what helped get the name out there a little quicker to a lot more people? Because you could ship it anywhere?
It definitely helped. But we did do traditional beer distribution and selling really well too. So we went super deep in the Northeast to start, and now we're kind of going deep everywhere. We do tons of sampling, a lot of grocery activation, pouring beer at finish lines of races. So we kind of do the old school and the new school both equally focused, I would say.
Yeah, okay. And I channeling my the compliance team and my PSA, I would be remiss if I didn't say that it was not without some restriction. We talk about no restrictions because the country is a fascinating place and there are different jurisdictions everywhere, and so it's not quite as simple as just shipping everywhere. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on. So
every state kind of has their own. Yeah, it does make it challenging. That's kind of the pain of it all, isn't it? having to figure all that out.
But it's fun too, and that's why you have the team that you have that loves to do these things better than how, and you all learn from each other, and it's a great system.
Yes, that's to your point earlier you made earlier about you're inspired by our team. I mean, that means that you've got all the right people in place to figure all the different elements out. And my wife has this, she's going through this process of understanding, like, you're on an executive level, people have different things that they are good at, like processing or operator or visionary. There's these, your brains just work differently, and it's the best way to have it is if you have all different types in your team, and then within your extended team as well, so that you become really well rounded. And the things that one person wants to do, you don't want to do, and vice versa. That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, I love that you guys have such a great team. That's great to hear.
Absolutely.
It's not always easy to accomplish sometimes.
Nope.
So, do you have tasting rooms at both facilities then? Like, if I were to fly to Connecticut to visit you guys, would I be able to tour the facility? And then, like, do you sell beer on premise, or is that not allowed in Connecticut? Or
it is allowed in Connecticut. So our original brewery did have a tap room, and our goal is to so we've now transitioned from our original Connecticut brewery to the bigger one, and we do plan to have another one over time. We just haven't built it out quite yet. So hopefully at some point in the future we have a really nice tasting room. But right now we unfortunately don't have any tasting rooms. We have done some pop-up tasting rooms around the country too, in different cities as well. So
yeah, that's a great idea. Have you, this is going to sound silly because I'm such a state fair person now, being in Texas, and that we go every year. Those are huge volume types of pop-ups. Like, they have a whole Texas winery garden and area. I don't know what's available for non-alcoholic beer, but have you ever thought of trying to enter any of the state fairs around the country? Because those are huge volume. At least it's big in Texas. It could be a really big opportunity.
I love the idea. We've done a few, but not nearly enough. That's a great idea. I love it. But,
yeah, because
big family-friendly, food-oriented occasions, like, it's definitely the wheelhouse.
Yeah, because I feel like even in Texas, the offerings are not that diverse and not that big. So I think that could be a great opportunity, especially for someone like you and your company with the non-alcoholic offering. That's a leader in the industry. It could be short-term opportunity, but it'd be there every year.
Yeah, I love it. I would definitely personally go sample myself. I love state fair type food. So if you're throwing athletic beers in the mix too, like, I would happily be there.
Yeah, you'd have to come because it's like 3 weeks in Texas, and the food items just came out, the new fried food items, and the one that I saw that kind of struck me was a fried crab cheese ball. Of course, right? I mean, it's ridiculous of me, but
sounds amazing.
That sounded really cool. I thought that sounded fun. And then they have all the Southern offerings, and they have barbecue and all sorts of really cool stuff, and then museums and all the fair stuff, light shows and dance shows and all that kind of stuff. So, well, Texas is one of the top 10 in the country, maybe top 5, because it's just so big. I don't know. It just seemed like something that seems really untapped. Sorry for the pun. At least in the Texas State Fair, because it's what a great opportunity for someone to walk around and drink beer all day and not have a problem. You don't have to take the train; you can drive and park and whatever.
Sounds amazing. I'm literally writing it down as we speak.
Okay, well, I'm glad I could be helpful. Are there any major pain points that you guys have felt throughout this process that may be unique or may not be unique to what you guys are doing in the non-alcoholic space?
I could, a couple things that are not unique to non-alcoholic space, but I think are felt all the way around. COVID was a fascinating struggle to navigate, and the supply chain shortages that everyone felt equally. So that was not easy, but shows the strength of the team in a situation like that. I think that's arguably one of the biggest and most shared with the community.
I heard 2025 is the year that COVID is no longer. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I know a nurse told my wife it's going to take 5 years in 2020 when all this went down. And so I guess that's kind of what I'm seeing or hearing rather than seeing.
Yeah. I feel like every day is kind of its own unique little challenge. I mean, which I think is probably standard in any entrepreneurial endeavor. I think the everyday challenges have gotten a little easier as we've grown. There was definitely the first 3 years, John and I, it was like a sea of random intellectual stimuli and challenges. Every day would just be totally random, equally challenging. There'd be 25 fires. We'd try to put out 3 of them in any given day.
Right.
So, and especially
that's a good
no
sign.
one had really.
That's a great sign.
Yeah, but one of our team's favorite books is the book The Obstacle's the Way, and that's kind of a motto too. Is running at the most challenging thing on our plate is often the most productive thing to do, and very often is where most companies do not go. They either avoid the hard work, and so that tends to leave moats behind and cover a lot of progress when we do the most challenging things. So yeah, we tend to live by the obstacles way.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. If there's an issue, you got to run towards it and get it done. It's the only way. If you avoid it, it's not going away.
100%.
Makes a lot of sense. Very cool. So, do you all have any passions outside of work? Music? Do you play music? Or, if I said you could have 1 million, 10 million, whatever amount you want, what would you do with it, with your passions outside of work? Can't be work related.
Yeah. Most of my passions aren't really expensive things. I love trail running. I love the outdoors. I like the water. I like skiing. Love books.
Snow skiing or water or both?
Snow skiing. Yeah. So,
okay.
But yeah, those, I think, books and things are definitely, I would say, biography specifically or history, but yeah, I think those are a lot of my interests.
Yeah, I think mine are pretty similar. Active outdoors stuff, family. I thoroughly enjoy being with my family and my kids and all that. And then probably cooking is way up there.
Yeah. Well, you grew up in it.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I love that. One thing we didn't talk about the branding piece is the 2% of your sales go to two for the Trails program. Is that something that you guys created as part of your brand and a part of giving back to the trails and parks systems for the next generation and beyond, right?
Yeah. So it's grown into a really big part of our business very quickly. It's 2% up to $2 million a year. That goes back to improving outdoor access for generations to come. And so it's meant to be a very broad mandate. And the past 2 years, it's been over 100 donations across the country in almost every state. And it's just to local trail parks, trail cleanups, trail building, bike parks, mountain biking, all sorts of things, rail trails, playgrounds. So yeah, it's like $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 here, there, everywhere. And last year we did 106 donations. This year we did 90 in the first half of the year. So we're giving out almost $2 million this year through that program. So it's when we look back in 10 years and see the impact of this program and the tens of millions of dollars of impact. Yeah. So we're so excited about that.
Well, I have an idea for you to donate to.
Love it. The grant window actually opens on August 17th.
Okay, well, I guess you have to apply for it. Well, so in Dallas, which nobody wants to give money to Dallas because there's plenty of money there, and I get that. But they have this very aggressive trail system that they're working on. And I live kind of okay, so if this is Texas, is this east for you?
Yep.
Am I backwards? Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Okay, there's a lake, and here's 75, which kind of divides the city. And then I live over here, so I can take trails that go all the way around the lake and back, and that's like 25 miles. And they put in a new one on North Park Haven Road that's about 16 miles round trip. And then they're going to connect that trail across the interstate of 75 and connect it to the trail and that goes to the lake. It's really cool. They've done this a lot. And they've got the trail done except for the overpass. I don't know if they need money or not. I just that's like one thing that would be really nice. It would have a huge impact because the people in Dallas are very active.
Yeah, that kind of project is like exactly the kind of thing we donate to. So we'd love to hear more about it. And we help out in like hundreds of projects like that every year. So that's super exciting.
I can't
apologize.
wait.
I have to go.
No, that's fine.
But I don't want to cut it off for you guys. So I just want to say thank you so much, Jessie. It was great to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise. No, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time.
For sure.
Good luck.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll be rooting for you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye. I totally forgot to about the tasting piece of it. I saw in our local Winn-Dixie, which is like a half a mile from my house, you have 3 or 4 different SKUs that I could have picked up and we could have done a little tasting. But next time, we'll do that next time.
Yeah, we can definitely send you some stuff too. We've got all our flagships out there in the world regularly and full time, but we've got an e-commerce platform that is, very active, and it's kind of our R&D stage.
Ooh, fun.
So we've got pilot brewers on both coasts, and all the brewing teams and quality teams can kind of drum up their own unique recipes. And
that's cool.
That's where we can kind of try all the new things, the fad beers, the new ingredients, and see how the folks respond to it.
So I guess if it reaches a certain volume, you keep it.
Yeah, and it's nice. We get direct feedback, and we can offer some variety. And again, that class of beer that had been kind of long forgotten, and so because our process is what it is, we're able to create all of the beers and flavors that are in the craft beer realm, but under the non-alcoholic umbrella.
That's really cool. You mentioned when you first started out that you did have some alcoholic. You were brewing alcoholic brews just to kind of get going. Do you have any brews that have alcohol in them, or is that ever in your future at all to do?
No. So right now, we're really focused on our non-alcoholic beers, and we're just trying to keep up with that demand and grow the facilities and the teams ahead of that. And it's interesting, all the exploration that you can do in those realms, but we're in love with what we're doing, and we definitely feel like we have a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of potential to grow in this specifically, and we kind of want to keep our head down and focus on that.
Yeah, I think you're doing the right thing, because it sounds like there's a lot more brews to come, and you're being creative about it, and then that's the fun part, right? And I'm the worst person to talk about when it comes to focus, so focus is good. Focusing in what is very good.
Yeah. So the creative and exploration part can be part of our e-commerce channel and our pilot series where we trial all those new things, and that's all we need right now.
So what is your flagship beer at this time?
So our original two beers were, we've got our Run Wild IPA, which is the blue can. We've got our Upside Down Golden, which is a yellow can, and that's also, might be right up your alley because it's gluten reduced. So it's under 20 parts per million of gluten. And then in addition to those, the two that kind of graduated out of our pilot program into year-round full-time flagships were our Free Wave Hazy IPA and then our Athletic Light. And Athletic Light is just kind of our approach to a super clean, crushable, everyday, lager type brew that, it's just easy drinking, kind of those classic double hops and a simple but tasty malt profile. And so
Nice.
that one's only 25 calories and 5 grams of carbs.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, that sounds good. That sounds yummy, actually. I kind of want to go get some. Yeah, especially if it's gluten reduced. I didn't know that. I'm sure those two are at the Winn-Dixie. I think there might be a third one.
Yeah.
I saw a third one.
Yeah, so, we at any given point, we've got 3 to 5 brews, if we, depending on whether or not we've got a seasonal brew out at that time. But, of course, if it's not there, ask for it.
Yeah. No, that's a good point because you can do that actually. I don't know about a Winn-Dixie, but there's plenty of local places around that I could go and get it from.
Yeah,
around here.
Great.
Good, it's Florida, anything goes.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of, or at least they didn't when I lived here the first time around. They didn't have a whole lot of rules to do much. I think they've cracked down some, but it's still a pretty open state, at least compared to Texas.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I guess not that. I mean, again, non-alcoholic beers are kind of different game.
Yep.
But are you guys in all 50 states now?
We are in all 50 states, and we're also in Canada and the UK and a little bit in Europe through an e-commerce platform.
Oh, that's awesome. So is that, do you ship it from here then?
Yeah, so we, it's nice. We've got our manufacturing facility here on the East Coast, so obviously close to ports, and can just take a little boat ride over to Europe. And then Canada's, not too far away from either San Diego or Connecticut, and so we've been going up there, and it's a great market up there as well.
UK is a good market too, because according to Bill, when I interviewed him earlier in the year, Gamelli, he told me that he actually ended up moving his operations there because they were so far advanced of, open to the non-alcoholic sector, probably 10 years ahead of us in that area. So is your business pretty good in the UK?
Yeah, it's great now and growing. We're excited to get into kind of the pub life. We're in some bigger stores like Tesco now, which is a fantastic step.
Yeah, huge.
But getting into the pub system where a lot of people live in pubs that they're kind of like daily stop at the coffee shop, and so getting there is definitely of interest.
What is the beer market there like, the non-alcoholic beer market? Do you know?
As a total percentage, I'm not entirely sure. But I know that, the beer market is heavily geared towards on-premise versus off-premise, where off-premise here is obviously bigger than on-premise.
Interesting.
Again, it's that kind of pub lifestyle where people are there, social gatherings down the street, and that's where the magic happens.
Yep. That's really cool. So is there keg business available there then?
So non-alcoholic beer on draft is not uncommon there, whereas it is here currently. That's kind of what we're trying to work on here, and we hope to be on drafted over there at some point. But they have a flourishing non-alcoholic draft program over there already.
Okay, I figured because you get you have all the whiskey that's being, produced over there, which is, well, obviously a lot of beer.
Oh yeah,
and not always dissimilar. So it makes sense that they would probably have a few. I just didn't know what that market looked like. over there. You know, I mean, they also have a lot of ciders, more so than here.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's exciting. We'll see how it grows and what we can do with it. And who knows, maybe we'll have a brewery over there one day.
That'd be awesome.
Agreed.
That'd be really fun. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
That could service your whole European market.
Yep. Yeah. I would not be opposed to visiting from time to time.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I've been to London and Scotland. London, I think, a couple times. Scotland once. Yeah, I'd like to get back over there at some point anyway. It's cold there, though.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, you know, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with me and tell your story. I think it's very inspiring. I love that you guys are inspired by other people's stories as well. And that's me. You know, that's why I did this podcast, because I love food and beverage innovation. Eventually, I'd like to have a food innovation podcast, but for now, I'm just all in on beverage. And you know, I love hearing how you guys came together, and it was almost like the universe knew what you needed, and it just all came together. I mean, I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was rather easy how you wanted to get back to Connecticut. The opportunity was just right there, and then right there for the San Diego brewery. Like, I love how that all just came together. And John Glazer and I had a conversation about this, about how once you focus and you put it out there, things start happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's kind of cool how that happened for you guys. That was really awesome.
Yeah, no, we feel super fortunate about it and the team around us. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I don't know how or why it happened, but the stars or whatever it was certainly aligned. And, you know, forever grateful for it. And yeah, I mean, we really appreciate you talking to us. And I understand getting into food will be fun, but you've got a wide world in beverage alone.
Yeah, it's, you know, COVID really inspired a lot of people to not just sit around and do nothing and drink. They were pretty busy coming up with ideas, and, you know, not just learning how to bake bread or getting your MBA or going back to school, whatever it might be. People were really inspired by coming up with all kinds of fun things. And so there's never been more innovation than there is today, which, you know, kind of fit with what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
You know, with getting into that space and understanding what was going on, the trends and the people behind the inspiration. And, you know, because everybody has their own journey and everybody has their own story. And I'm inspired by learning what those are and then being able to share them, you know, with the world.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And, you know, thank you very much for the opportunity and for helping share ours.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I can't wait to meet up again in the future, whenever that is, and see how your progress is going. Absolutely. Maybe you'll have a brewery in the UK by then. Who knows?
Perhaps. We'll see. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Well, I appreciate it. I'll let you go. I'll sign off and say goodbye and let you get back to your creative space.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much.
You bet. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This week's episode was produced by Fedora J Productions.